Let's talk about how to cure hiccups almost instantly. Now, what is a hiccup? Well, the diaphragm, which connects the upper cavity from the abdominal cavity right here, there's two muscles, goes into spasm, and that interrupts your vocal cords, creating a hic sound. Okay, so that's what it is. Triggers involve laughing, excessive talking. I remember in the past when I prepared for a talk, right? I would practice right before my live presentation. I would be practicing what I'm going to say, right? And sometimes I'd be going really fast and then I would get the hiccups. And now I have to wait for a period of time before they go away because you can't do a presentation with hiccups. I really wish I would have known what to do back then, but I'm going to show you what to do. But if you're eating too fast, you can get these hiccups. If you're stressed, you can get these hiccups. And so people tell you that, oh yeah, you just need to hold your breath, drink water upside down, breathe into a paper bag, or breathe really slowly, okay, and your hiccups will go away. Now the question is, do any of these work? But the bigger question is, what's going on? What is causing this problem? You know, a solution depends on really understanding the problem. In medicine, it's all about taking a problem and then treating it. There's this huge gap in understanding the problem so you can actually fix the root cause, but it's not about root causes. It's about let's suppress the symptom and let's keep suppressing the symptom and let's create this solution that only lasts for 24 hours, so you have to keep taking the solution over and over. Now, before I get into how to fix this, I just want to explain how I approach figuring out things, okay? Let's just take, for example, this symptom called GERD, which is a condition where your valve on the top of the stomach is not closing and the acid squirts up through into the esophagus. So what I normally do to figure out something is I will take the symptom or the problem and compare it to normal physiology that happens in this area of the body. So in a normal situation, when you eat, the valve on the top of the stomach should close, right? But with GERD, it's left open, and so the acid comes back up. And then they treat it with antacids or PPIs or other types of medication. So when I try to figure this out, I want to know the mechanism. I want to know what's called pathophysiology, which is patho means disease, and physiology is how things actually work. So I'll study normal physiology of the stomach and pathophysiology of GERD to see if I could really understand what's going on and then come up with a solution. Now with GERD, I found some very interesting information that's not broadly promoted, that the valve has sensors for pH, okay? Normally, the pH of the stomach should be extremely acid, between 1 and 3, but with GERD, I found some data that the pH is higher. It's more alkaline. It's not as acid. And so apparently what's happening with GERD is that valve is not sensing that the pH is 1 to 3, and it's not closing like it should when you eat. So that data tells me that what we need to do with GERD is add more acid to the stomach, and that's what I did in practice, and it worked like a charm. We would give people either betaine hydrochloride or apple cider vinegar, and boom, gone. I mean, think about it. Antacids and PPIs given to people who have acid reflux or GERD or heartburn have a side effect. And one of the side effects of antacids and PPIs is GERD and heartburn and acid reflux. So anyway, I just wanted to explain how I figure these things out because this relates to hiccups. There was a fascinating research study that I had to really dig to find this study, and it was done on cats, okay? This is what they found. This is interesting. Hiccups stopped immediately when the CO2, carbon dioxide pressure in the veins equals the CO2 pressure in the arteries, okay? Now, to make this very simple, hiccups stop when you increase CO2, okay? That is very, very counterintuitive. Doesn't make sense unless you understand something. If someone gets too much oxygen in their blood without enough CO2, that oxygen doesn't bind or get released like it should and the person basically starves of oxygen. Now, how does it relate to hiccups? Well, guess what's happening when you're laughing? You're getting a lot of oxygen. Excessive talking, you're getting a lot of oxygen. Eating too fast, you're getting a lot of oxygen. When you're stressed, a lot of times you're hyperventilating, getting too much oxygen. And this also explains why holding your breath increases CO2, making those hiccups go away. When you're drinking upside down, you're controlling your breathing, okay, getting more CO2, less oxygen. Look what's happening when you're breathing into a bag. You're basically breathing your carbon dioxide. It's the carbon dioxide that then balances out this excess amount of oxygen and allows the oxygen to finally be bound and released into the bloodstream and into the muscles like the diaphragm. When people have too little CO2, okay, their pH changes and becomes more alkaline. In alkalosis, everything gets really, really tight. You get spasms. It affects your breathing. And so one symptom of alkalosis is hiccups. And then hiccups caused by too much oxygen can then trigger more alkalosis. So it's kind of a vicious circle. So hiccups are caused by too much oxygen and not enough CO2. And the best way to get rid of them very, very fast is to increase CO2 by doing any of these right here. In fact, if you have a bag and breathe into it, that would work very nicely. Or you can just breathe through your nose, not your mouth, by slowing your breath down, 5 seconds in and 5 seconds out. You can even hold your breath. Any one of these will work. As long as you understand, you don't want to get more oxygen, you want to get less oxygen and more CO2. So if you have that key understanding, which is right here, then you can be creative. You can actually wear a mask, right? And increase your CO2 that way. So anyway, the next time you get a hiccup or someone else around you gets a hiccup, now you know exactly what to do. Now, I've talked a little bit about this in my video on panic attacks, which I give you a much greater understanding about this CO2 oxygen thing. I would highly recommend checking out that video if you haven't seen it. I put it up right here.